No, I'm live already. Hey, you. Sorry, I'm trying to drive and go live before I cross the beautiful River Thames. It's 4 in the morning, and today is the 3rd of October, so I intend to do something special for me anyway, a little later this morning, because today is the 3rd of October, but it's the 31st anniversary of this massive battle that I was involved in as a 19-year-old boy. Yeah, this is the old River Thames I'm crossing right now. So yeah, I'm going to do another video, but I wanted to talk about how it's an interesting place to be right now, because, you know, the colliding worlds of mine, which is one in which the earth is flat and we are being deceived by pretty much every, you know, institution and organization, not knowingly necessarily, but they've been poisoned with bad information or you know, misinformation that has led to them teaching stuff that is no longer even close to being true. And so I'm just trying to let me just check. Yeah. I'm just trying to navigate my way through that reality and make you know, make something of this, and take whatever opportunities come my way to learn this new paradigm, understand or understand this new paradigm in a way that, you know, I might never have imagined possible. But all the while I've put out videos, you know, recently, since I started this YouTube channel, with some content that calls into question the science that we were taught at school vis-a-vis the nature of the earth upon which we dwell. And I just got asked a question by some helpful chap, I think called KJ or something, and the question went something like this: explain 6 months of sunlight in the northern and southern poles. Something like that. Explain how you get 6 months of sunlight in the north and the south pole. And I thought that's interesting, because it's posed to me like a question in a school exam, like the ones I used to get. So I wondered how many points I would get, KJ, if I answered the question exactly like teacher instructed me to answer it. It's exactly like the books that she was given instructed her to teach us, and exactly like the nerdish professor who answered every question he ever got set correctly according to the book that he was given. If I answer the question as they would have me answer it, would I get full marks for that? For not thinking for myself, for repeating verbatim exactly what was said by a teacher back in 1985 now was the last time I was in a school like that. And don't even get me started on my little spell at university. That's another story altogether, and the brain drain. Anyway, I mean, just for the sake of you know, interest, if anybody is listening to this, you know, the northern and southern 24-hour day or 24-hour sun thing. It's something what we always spoke about, like in how there was always a, you know, 20, even in South Africa, or, you know, we knew there was a long or permanent day that happened up in in Scandinavia and places like that. We're up in Scandinavia and places like that. Well, I know from people I've spoken to. In fact, one of the old lady I was out with yesterday, she spent years up in sort of the center middle of Sweden, which is quite a long way up, actually. She keeps telling me Sweden is such a long country that if you had to spin it like this on its axis, you would be able to reach the Mediterranean. You could turn it down and reach the Mediterranean. Now, isn't that interesting? Sweden, which is about as high up as anyone goes on this globe of yours, actually only gets to about 60 or 65. I haven't looked at this for a long time, so don't crucify me if I've got this wrong, but from the latitude point of view, you're only getting up to 65. When you go up to Lapland and all that sort of nonsense, you know, there's a very, very long way from 65 to 90. A lot of unknowns. That's a subject for another conversation. But I tell you what is interesting, back to the sun, 24-hour sun, is that whilst we've always sort of said, oh yeah, you know, we recognize that there's a 24-hour sun up north, the South Pole 24-hour sun, well, it was something that we never really encountered. And let's be honest, if you live in the southern regions, like I do, then you know that something you don't get that the Europeans get is the very long summer nights. You don't get that. You know, here in the UK, you can arguably be, and we're at what, 55. You could arguably be, you know, up at 10 o'clock at night, and it's still fairly bright, actually. You know, no street lights necessary or anything like that, and that's 10 o'clock at night, and that's in England. So obviously, when you get up to 60, 65 degrees, and they say, oh yeah, midnight, 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, it's still light. No problem. I have no problem with seeing how that is. But down in Cape Town in South Africa, we never get those expanded nights. You know, the summer sun is gone by 8:30 at the latest, I think. 8:30 at the latest. So that's one bit of logic that you've got to allow for. The other thing is that no one has ever really shown me evidence that there is, well, I've never heard of any, I've never met anyone. Okay, there were far fewer people that are able to go down to 65 south. 70 degrees south is you have to be in like a military convoy, and the equipment you need to be down there is insane. Whereas, you know, my auntie Shirley up the road, she was just, yeah, she just lived up there, you know. That's where the house up there, you know. Do that on the southern side of this earth, and it's a very different story. But apparently that can all be explained by my balls tilting at 23 degrees. Anyway, I was when this issue came up a few years ago, you know, the southern and this is why it's a thing, because, you know, I let go of this information years ago now, when I didn't need any more evidence, and I didn't need to be raking over the coals of evidence and so on, because really this one bit of footage popped up that it proclaimed it was filming a 24-hour sun from the Antarctic. Well, it's so dodgy, and it's so iffy, and it's so cut up, and it's so rare. Because if this is something that was happening every year, and we're now in the year 2018, would there not be like acres of footage and information about that? Would there not be plenty of people going, this is no, KJ. Let me tell you, if you're still repeating verbatim what teacher told you, oh, I'd hope to have let that kind of, I want to let that kind of go. You know, I'm trying to work on other stuff, you know, not like, is KJ gonna stick to what he was taught as a child? You know, kicking and screaming, will refuse to take on any new information or challenge what teacher taught him. I don't know. Today is the 31st anniversary of that huge tank battle that I was involved in 1987, and I'm going to do something, partly because my gunner, the guy who sat next to me through that battle, turned up in my life the other day. So he missed out on all the fanfare when I did the book back in 2014. So I want to do something about that and respect the lives lost in all battles, or honor those that have sacrificed their life for the lies that they were told by their nation, by their country. I want to do a thing on country, you know, what is a country, and what is a national flag, and what is all this ridiculous patriotism. You know, the people who run the show, your governors, they say you may not be racist, but you must follow our flag. Oh, but flags don't have color problems, you know what I'm saying? You know, that's why it's not really racist, is it? You know, just to call me a South African or a British or a whitey or whatever, it's not really racist. So I'm going to obviously be trying to encourage people to step away from that. I don't know how much energy I have for KJ and, you know, the mumblers who are going to follow for the next 50 years, you know, struggling to let go of teachers' edict. But I'm fairly sure we're never going to find this conclusive proof. And I get back to it because I have wondered and meandered a little bit, so I do apologize. Your time is more precious. But I do think that the business of this is the challenge with those that are stuck with the ball, or stuck, you know, working on the ball business, is everything has an explanation. You know, they've had hundreds of years to perfect the explanation business, and why is this guy braking? We're meant to be going, it's green, fool. You know, in the explanation business, you know, about explaining this, explaining that, well, you know what, I ain't got time for all these explanations. There's far more super massive information coming out, you know, about how awesome we are, and how great we should be. I liken it like this. When I talk to younger people, I say that you know, you're like Superman and Spider-Man, Batman and Catwoman, kind of all wrapped up in one, you know. So just a bit of a tight turn there. You know, you're all of those wrapped into one, but you know, they've thrown kryptonite or whatever is our fluoride and your science textbook down your throat, which has completely robbed you of the majority of all of your powers, such that you would look at someone with those powers and not even recognize them as one of you. So I'm gonna try and work on my own Superman, you know, and work on my own Catwoman. And hopefully, you know, I can draw other people in like that. Draw other people in when I say that, you know, those trolley types will pounce on that. By that I mean, show the way. be a light for others to see how they might also transform their self. Because it's in the transformation of the self that we will, well, find the truth, and in finding the truth we will perhaps free our minds from these ball prisons and eventually free our communities from. Because, guys, I think this is an important thought, actually, you know. If you had a room full of supermen and you had gassed them with kryptonite gas, and you had kryptonite crystals lying around the room so that they were enfeebled and weak, and then you were to flood the room with water or with some, you know, hungry lions or some such thing, then they let the supermen, open the gates so that the lions could kind of run in, or the water could flood in. Only a few of those supermen will survive that situation, if any. And I guess I'm drawing an analogy to the state of our human condition. The human condition that is so enfeebled by centuries of, certainly at least a good century or so of total information control and indoctrination. You know, if you had to, I go down to Speaker's Corner sometimes, I feel like, why are the police here? You know, it's a little, why do they need to be here? But actually sometimes when you see the way that we carry on with each other, you kind of go, okay, well, I see why they're here. Because sometimes people are going to get, so the situation is that if we had to go, all right, well, firstly, people aren't going to buy the fact that the world is flat. They want to cling to teacher's bull. That's the first thing. And second thing, even if a sizable chunk of us become awakened to this idea that the whole construct is a lie, I see how hard it is for people to move beyond simply the construct's a lie. So what? Let's go and bash down houses of the doors at number 10 Downing Street and Parliament and whatnot. Let's go and do all of that. Let's go and overturn the law lords and, you know, the House of Lords and all that crap. And we'll install our own, you know, flat earth government. Well, fuck me. You've totally missed the point then. Because, I'm afraid, the flat earth government is going to be just another version of the ball earth government, really. I mean, it's going to be the same types of creatures that seep their way, if they're not already being controlled, you know, because the organ movement would have been controlled. But, you know, the same sorts of permanent secretaries and the same sort of, you know, and you ask the average person, you know, oftentimes the average person will go, you know, we absolutely need them to be there for us and make these decisions and so on and so forth. And I mean, I'm the first one to admit that, you know, if you needed someone to manage your roads, you would have to appoint somebody to kind of take care of that. Or if you could turn schools into something that was actually useful to the human, then, you know, you'd still need someone to run those institutions and train the people that were going to provide them with their schooling and so on. So, you know, that the nature of the system is that it actually requires the bureaucracy, you know, and it requires for people to be sort of making decisions. And the way that this is set up is that people are far too busy with other aspects of their lives, like pornography, sport, or cookery shows. You know, they're far too busy with, you know, their golf club membership, or even just, you know, just coffee with a, you know, whatever, soap opera. They're busy with that. They don't have time to be involved in other things in their life, in the sort of business of running things. And to an extent, you know, this is meant to be a fun time here. You know, we're meant to be coming here and having a good time in a way. So, you know, who wants to be troubling themselves with running things? People are far more interested in going on a 2-week cruise around the Scandinavian ice floes and see the 24-hour sun. And then when you're done with that, in 6 months' time, you can go to the South Pole and see their 24-hour sun from a controlled distance, and no cameras allowed. Do you understand? Anyway, I'm just I'm hopeful that you know, there's something of use for you here in this little stream. As I'm driving home. Got a busy day today. A couple of gardens to attend to. My niece is coming out from America actually tomorrow. She's going to stay with us for 3 or 4 months. That's going to be interesting. 18-year-old. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm fairly sure that my friend KJ will never find satisfactory evidence that there is a 24-hour sun in the southern pole, so-called pole. But I could explain how it could exist on a ball. I mean, KJ, my good friend and unlearned brother, you might want to try a little experimentation yourself at home, perhaps, with a large lamp and a very small ball. See if you can recreate, you know, the sorts of things that we're told happens with the sun on the moon and the sun on an earth, on a globe, and so on. You know, when I was young, I was willing to accept this stuff. When I was older, I was like, okay. And then when I found out that you can't measure curvature, or that water surfaces never kind of will bend other than in like a teardrop, when a baller realizes is that his balls have been crushed. That's the only time. And so when you realize those things are hard truths, then you stop giving conflation or inflation to the explanation that you were taught to explain why these things work, rather than measure and show and demonstrate in actual models, rather than simply believing that because the earth is too big you have to accept there'll never be a model that'll show the things that you've been taught to believe in. Okay, so I'll leave it at that, and I will wish you all a super 3rd of October. By this time, what are we talking about now? It's 4:30 in the morning here, which makes it, well, they don't have daylight savings, so it's 5:30 there, I think, which is